The hall was filled with a tense silence. Every corner seemed heavy with anticipation, and the audience shifted nervously in their seats. The competition had reached a point where the pressure was almost unbearable. One by one, participants had come and gone, each performing with skill and hope, but none had been able to impress the judges fully. The judges sat in their elevated chairs, their faces a mixture of concentration, disappointment, and exhaustion. Their eyes scanned the performers, searching for that spark, that something extraordinary that could make them sit up in awe. But so far, nothing had worked. The contestants were talented, yes, but none had managed to capture the magic that the judges were longing to see. The audience's energy reflected the tension in the room. Some people whispered to each other, speculating about who might finally succeed. Others sat rigidly, holding their breath, waiting for the next act. There was a sense of impatience and frustration in the air. Everyone could feel it. The weight of expectations, the quiet pressure that seemed to hang like a storm cloud over the stage. It was a critical moment, and even the smallest mistake or misstep could shatter the fragile hope everyone was clinging to. Backstage, contestants prepared themselves with nervous energy. Some paced back and forth, muttering quietly to themselves. Others closed their eyes and tried to focus, taking deep breaths to calm the nerves that threatened to take over. The competition was tough, and the pressure was immense. Every performance counted, and the stakes felt impossibly high. Parents and coaches whispered encouragement, offering last-minute advice, but it all seemed secondary to the intense feeling of anticipation. Everyone knew that only one performance could change the mood of the entire room, but no one could predict who that would be. The judges were becoming restless. One leaned back in the chair, rubbing the temples, trying to shake off the fatigue. Another tapped a pen nervously against the notepad, jotting down notes but clearly struggling to find words that matched the performances they had seen. Each contestant had something to offer, but nothing had sparked that true sense of wonder. The judges had seen many competitions before, and they had high standards. They wanted to be moved, surprised, or amazed. Their hope had been slowly fading, and now it was almost gone. Their expressions betrayed it, showing how much disappointment they felt. The room felt heavy with their quiet doubts, and even the audience sensed that something extraordinary was needed to lift the mood. As the next contestant was announced, there was a pause. The name echoed through the microphone, and a young child stepped forward. The audience murmured, some leaning forward to get a better look. The judges looked at the small figure on stage with skepticism. They had seen children perform before, some with great promise, but this was the final round, and the pressure was enormous. Many of them doubted that this young child could meet the standards they had set. Their previous experiences had taught them to be cautious, to expect the unexpected, but this time, doubt overshadowed curiosity. The tension in the room seemed to tighten further as the child approached the center of the stage. Despite the uncertainty, there was something quietly captivating about the way the child moved. There was no hesitation, no sign of fear or nervousness. The calm confidence stood in stark contrast to the tension that gripped the judges and the audience. People began to notice this subtle difference, the way the child held themselves with poise and focus. There was a stillness in the air, a moment of pause as everyone collectively wondered what would happen next. The child's presence alone commanded attention, even before a single note was played or a step was taken. It was a quiet power, one that made people instinctively lean in, curious and intrigued. The lights dimmed slightly, focusing on the child at the center of the stage. The judges leaned forward, exchanging glances that revealed their mixed feelings of skepticism and cautious interest. The audience was holding their breath, sensing that something different was about to happen, even if they couldn't quite put their finger on it. There was an unspoken agreement among everyone present. This moment could change everything. The buildup of tension, the weight of expectations, and the lingering disappointment from previous performances all created the perfect storm for a breakthrough. Everyone could feel it, and the anticipation was almost unbearable. Backstage, whispers floated among the remaining contestants. Some expressed doubt, quietly discussing whether the child could actually perform at the level required. Others smiled softly, feeling inspired by the child's calm demeanor. The contrast between the anxiety of the other participants and the ease of this young performer was noticeable. Even the coaches and parents backstage were watching with a mix of hope and apprehension. There was a sense that something extraordinary might be about to unfold, even though no one could predict the outcome. The energy backstage mirrored the tension on stage, a mixture of anticipation, doubt, and excitement. On the stage, the child prepared to begin. The audience leaned forward, some gripping the edges of their seats, waiting for the first sign of talent or skill. The judges sat rigidly, their pens poised, eyes fixed on the performer, hearts uncertain. The atmosphere was charged, the air thick with expectation. Every sound, every movement could either disappoint or amaze. The child took a deep breath and glanced at the judges briefly, then focused ahead. There was no fear in the eyes, only determination. It was a stark contrast to the room filled with restless, anxious faces. The silence before the performance was almost deafening, every person present feeling the weight of the moment. As the performance was about to begin, a strange calm fell over the room. The earlier tension seemed to pause, replaced by a quiet curiosity. People began to notice the small details, the way the child adjusted their posture, the subtle focus in their eyes, the gentle confidence in every movement. It was unlike anything they had seen so far. The judges exchanged fleeting glances, unsure whether to expect brilliance or disappointment. Even the audience felt the change, sensing that this might be the moment that finally broke through the weight of hopelessness. There was a shared anticipation, a collective holding of breath, as if everyone knew that something remarkable could happen, yet no one could guess exactly what it would be. The stage lights brightened slightly, illuminating the child fully. Every eye in the room was fixed on the small figure, waiting for the first sign of action. The judges leaned forward, pens hovering above their notepads, trying to prepare themselves for what was to come. The audience was silent now, every person caught in the spell of expectation. The tension that had built over hours of competition now condensed into this single moment. The child's presence was magnetic, drawing attention without even starting the performance. Everyone sensed that this moment could be life-changing, not just for the contestant, but for the judges and the audience as well. It was a quiet, powerful reminder that talent could come from the most unexpected places, and that sometimes, hope could return in the smallest of forms. The child stood at the center, ready to begin, with the weight of all eyes upon them. The judges, exhausted and almost defeated, leaned forward slightly, a spark of curiosity replacing the skepticism that had filled their hearts moments ago. The audience waited, the silence stretching, heavy with possibility. And then, in that stillness, the child moved, took the first step, and began what would become an unforgettable performance. Every person in the room, from the judges to the audience, felt a shift. The hopelessness that had settled so heavily was beginning to lift, replaced by a quiet sense of anticipation, a feeling that something extraordinary was about to happen. The child stood at the center of the stage, small and quiet, but somehow commanding attention. The audience was curious, watching every small movement with interest. Whispers ran through the crowd as people tried to guess what the child might do. Some looked doubtful, thinking the performance would be another disappointment. Others felt a strange excitement, sensing that this little performer might surprise everyone. Backstage, other contestants watched too, a mix of nervousness and admiration on their faces. Some shook their heads, unsure how someone so young could face such pressure. Yet, there was something about the child that seemed different. There was no hesitation, no sign of fear, just a quiet focus that drew eyes without even speaking. The judges leaned forward slightly, pens hovering over their notes. Their previous hope had faded, but now a small spark of curiosity appeared. They had seen many young contestants before, and most had failed to meet expectations. But this child seemed calm, ready, and strangely confident. The judges exchanged quick glances, uncertain what to expect. One of them muttered softly under the breath, almost to themselves, "Could this be the one?" The room remained quiet, almost as if everyone was holding their breath, waiting for the first move. The child took a deep breath, then gently lifted a hand. There was a pause, just a fraction of a second, and then the performance began. It started with something simple, a small action that seemed ordinary at first, but as it continued, it became clear that every movement had purpose and precision. The audience began to lean forward, intrigued. The child moved with a confidence that seemed beyond age, each step carefully measured, each motion deliberate and exact. There was no rush, no overacting, just pure focus. Even the judges, who had been skeptical moments ago, felt their interest grow. Their pens remained poised but motionless, as they watched silently, trying to process what they were seeing. As the performance unfolded, subtle details caught the eye. Every gesture, every facial expression, every small movement was executed with care. It was not just skill. It was grace and thoughtfulness combined. The audience began to respond, quietly at first, then with small claps that grew louder as the act continued. Some people were on the edge of their seats, eyes wide in amazement. The child seemed unaware of the attention, focused entirely on performing. That focus made the performance even more captivating. It was not just talent that drew the audience in. It was the calm determination and courage that seemed to shine from the young performer. Backstage, whispers grew louder. Other contestants were watching through the small openings and monitors, some clenching their fists, others covering their mouths in awe. Even the adults, parents, and coaches felt the surprise and admiration that filled the room. Many had seen talent before, but rarely like this. The combination of skill, confidence, and innocence was rare, and it was captivating everyone. The tension that had filled the room before now began to shift. People were no longer holding their breath in fear or worry. Instead, they leaned forward, eager to see what would happen next. The judges began to show signs of genuine astonishment. Their eyes widened, their mouths opened slightly, and one of them leaned back briefly, shaking their head in disbelief. They had been so certain that no performance could impress them tonight, but here was something different. Something that defied their expectations. Every note, every step, every movement was perfect. Their previous skepticism began to melt away, replaced by admiration and awe. For a moment, there was silence among the judges, as if they were collectively trying to take it all in, trying to comprehend the talent displayed in front of them. The audience mirrored this feeling, quiet and captivated, holding on to every detail. The child's performance continued, growing in confidence and complexity. The skills that seemed simple at first now revealed layers of talent and preparation. It was not just practice. It was passion, dedication, and an innate sense of rhythm and timing. The audience could sense the effort, the focus, and the heart behind every action. Many began to smile, some nodded their heads in approval, and others whispered quietly to the people next to them, sharing their amazement. It was impossible not to notice the joy that the performance was bringing to the room, a joy that replaced the earlier tension and hopelessness. As the act reached its peak, the child executed a series of moves that seemed almost impossible for someone so young. The audience gasped collectively, clapping and cheering louder. The judges were momentarily speechless, trying to gather their thoughts. It was clear that this performance was extraordinary, unlike anything they had expected. The child's small stature and young age made the achievement even more impressive. Each move was filled with precision and emotion, capturing not just the skill but the heart of the performer. There was a feeling that the child was telling a story through every motion, a story that everyone could understand and feel. The atmosphere in the room had completely transformed. Where there was once skepticism and doubt, there was now awe and admiration. People were smiling, clapping, and whispering excitedly. Even those who had been critical moments ago could not help but feel moved. The energy in the room was electric, a shared feeling of witnessing something truly special. The child remained focused, finishing the performance with a final gesture that was simple yet powerful. The room erupted in applause, the sound filling every corner of the hall. The judges could no longer hide their amazement. They were no longer tired or disappointed. They were inspired. After the performance, the child stood quietly, taking a small bow. The audience continued to cheer and clap, some even standing up in admiration. The judges, still recovering from the shock of what they had seen, began to speak, offering praise and acknowledgement. Each word was filled with genuine surprise and respect. The child smiled softly, not seeking attention but simply acknowledging the appreciation. It was a humble response, one that only made the audience respect the young performer even more. Backstage, the other contestants looked on with a mixture of feelings. Some felt inspired, motivated to do better in their own performances. Others felt a sense of wonder, amazed at the unexpected talent they had witnessed. Even the adults, parents, and coaches who had seen countless performances over the years felt touched and inspired. The child's presence and skill had changed the energy of the room entirely. What had started as tension and skepticism had transformed into admiration and hope. It was clear to everyone that this young performer was not only talented but capable of leaving a lasting impression on everyone who had witnessed the act. The performance had not just impressed, it had lifted the room. People were talking excitedly, sharing their amazement and admiration. The judges smiled, nodding in agreement, realizing that hope could return in the most unexpected forms. The child's talent and confidence had reminded everyone that extraordinary abilities could appear in the most unlikely places. It was a lesson in courage, determination, and the power of belief. Everyone in the room, from the judges to the audience, felt inspired, knowing they had witnessed something truly remarkable. The child stood at the center of the stage, heart steady, breathing calm, as if nothing in the world could disturb the focus that filled every inch of the small body. The audience watched, silent at first, holding their breath, mesmerized by the confidence and grace that seemed impossible for someone so young. The child's movements flowed effortlessly, each step precise and deliberate, yet full of life and energy. There was a rhythm that captivated everyone, something beyond technical skill. It was a natural charm, a presence that made it impossible to look away. The judges, who had been skeptical just moments before, now leaned forward, their pens forgotten on the table. They exchanged glances, eyes wide with amazement. They had seen talent before, but rarely had they witnessed such a combination of skill, poise, and emotional depth in one small performer. The child's actions told a story that transcended words, touching something deep inside everyone watching. The performance was simple in some ways, but the precision, timing, and confidence made it extraordinary. Each motion was deliberate, yet it seemed effortless, as if the child were born to do this. The audience began to respond slowly at first, a soft murmur of excitement rippling through the room. People started to clap lightly, hesitant to interrupt the spell that had been cast. But as the performance continued, the applause grew, spreading like wildfire. Some people were on the edge of their seats, others had their mouths open in surprise, and many had smiles that reflected pure delight. The child's presence was magnetic, pulling everyone into the world of the performance. Each person felt the emotion, the focus, the joy, and the courage that radiated from the stage. Backstage, other contestants were watching intently. Some were whispering to each other, expressing disbelief that someone so young could perform with such precision and confidence. Others were silent, captivated by the quiet power that radiated from the small figure on stage. Even the adults, parents, and coaches who had seen countless performances over the years found themselves caught in awe. There was no doubt that this was something special, something unforgettable. The tension and pressure that had filled the room earlier were replaced with admiration, and a sense of hope returned that had long been lost. The child's movements became more complex, each step blending seamlessly into the next. Every detail was perfect, yet it was not mechanical or forced. It was alive, full of heart and spirit. The audience could sense the effort and dedication behind every motion, but it never felt overwhelming or tiring. It felt natural, effortless, and beautiful. There was a clarity in the performance that made everyone understand the story being told, even without words. The judges watched in silence, absorbing every detail, amazed at how someone so young could command attention and emotion with such skill. The small performer then added a flourish, something unexpected yet perfectly timed. The audience gasped, and for a moment, the room seemed to hold its collective breath. The judges exchanged quick glances, their expressions shifting from amazement to pure astonishment. The child had taken a risk, something that could have failed, but it worked perfectly. That moment captured the essence of the performance. Courage, skill, and a willingness to go beyond what was expected. The room erupted into applause again, louder this time, as the audience recognized the brilliance of what they had just witnessed. The child's face remained calm, showing no sign of stress or pressure. The audience could not help but notice the contrast between the child's composed demeanor and the excitement in the room. Every person present felt a mix of joy, amazement, and respect. The performance was no longer just a display of skill. It had become an experience, a shared moment that everyone would remember. The child's ability to remain focused, confident, and expressive at the same time inspired admiration from the judges, the audience, and even the other contestants. As the act continued, it became clear that the child was in full control of the performance. Each movement, each step, each expression was intentional, yet it felt spontaneous. The audience was drawn deeper into the story, forgetting everything else around them. The judges' previous skepticism was completely gone, replaced by wonder and respect. Every note, every gesture, every motion was perfect, and the emotional impact was undeniable. The child had transformed the stage into a space where magic felt possible, where the impossible became real. People felt emotions they did not expect: joy, excitement, surprise, and admiration all at once. Backstage, whispers turned into quiet conversations. Some contestants felt inspired, thinking about how they could improve their own performances. Others simply shook their heads, unable to comprehend the talent they were witnessing. Parents and coaches smiled, proud and amazed, sharing a sense of wonder that transcended words. The child's skill and calm presence had changed the energy of the entire room. What had been a tense and stressful competition was now filled with excitement and possibility. Everyone present could feel the shift in the atmosphere, a shared recognition that they were witnessing something rare and extraordinary. The final moments of the performance approached, and the child executed the concluding movements with precision and elegance. The audience responded immediately, clapping and cheering with enthusiasm, some even standing to express their admiration. The judges, momentarily silent, slowly started nodding and smiling, impressed by the combination of talent, focus, and grace. They had been ready to give up hope, but now they felt the excitement and inspiration that only a truly exceptional performance could bring. The child's small stature and age made the accomplishment even more remarkable, and the room was alive with energy and respect. When the performance ended, the child stood still for a moment, catching their breath and acknowledging the applause with a small bow. The audience continued clapping, some whistling, others cheering loudly. It was a moment of pure celebration, a recognition of talent, courage, and determination. The judges began to speak, offering heartfelt praise and admiration. Each comment was sincere, reflecting the astonishment they felt. The child smiled quietly, humble and composed, acknowledging the appreciation without arrogance. It was a reminder to everyone that greatness could come from the most unexpected places. Backstage, the excitement was palpable. Contestants, parents, and coaches discussed the performance in hushed tones, sharing their awe and admiration. The child had changed the mood of the entire event, transforming it from a tense and doubtful competition into an experience filled with hope and inspiration. Everyone present felt a sense of connection to the performance, a recognition of the talent and courage that had been displayed. It was a shared experience that would remain in the memory of all who witnessed it. The performance had achieved more than anyone expected. It had captivated the audience, impressed the judges, and inspired everyone present. The child had shown that age and size were not barriers to talent, and that confidence, focus, and heart could create something truly extraordinary. The room was filled with energy, excitement, and admiration. People left the stage feeling uplifted, inspired, and amazed. The child's performance had reminded everyone of the power of determination, skill, and courage, leaving a lasting impression that no one would forget. The impossible had been made real, and the room had been forever changed by the brilliance of a young performer who had dared to dream big. The room was alive with excitement. The child had just finished a portion of the performance that left everyone breathless. People in the audience were leaning forward in their seats, some clapping, some whispering, and others simply staring, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. The judges, who had been tired and skeptical before, now sat in awe, their eyes wide, pens forgotten on the table. They had expected nothing, and yet, here was a young child commanding the stage with such skill and confidence that even the most experienced judges were speechless. The child's small stature and age made the performance all the more remarkable. Every movement was deliberate yet fluid, showing control, grace, and focus. The audience could sense the dedication behind each gesture, the countless hours of practice, and the courage it took to perform under such pressure. The judges exchanged glances, nodding subtly, acknowledging to each other the rare talent that stood before them. There was a quiet understanding among them that what they had witnessed was extraordinary, something that would be remembered long after the competition was over. As the child moved through the next part of the performance, the complexity increased. What had seemed simple moments ago now revealed layers of skill and artistry. Each step, each motion, each subtle expression conveyed not only technical ability but also emotion. The child was telling a story through the performance, a story that everyone could feel. The audience was completely absorbed, and the room was filled with a mixture of admiration, amazement, and quiet joy. People found themselves smiling, clapping along, and some even teared up at the unexpected depth and brilliance of the performance. Backstage, the energy had shifted completely. Contestants who had been nervous and anxious moments ago were now silent, watching with awe. Parents and coaches exchanged looks of disbelief and pride, unable to contain their amazement. The child had transformed the atmosphere from one of tension and doubt to one of inspiration and hope. It was a moment of shared understanding, a collective realization that they were witnessing something rare and remarkable. Everyone present felt it, the power of talent, the courage to perform, and the joy that comes from witnessing brilliance in its purest form. The judges began to respond, slowly at first, as they tried to find words to express their astonishment. One judge leaned forward, hands clasped, watching intently, trying to absorb every detail. Another shook their head in disbelief, whispering quietly to the colleague beside them. They had seen talent before, but rarely with such a combination of skill, focus, and poise. The child was not just performing. They were captivating, commanding attention, and inspiring everyone in the room. The judges' faces reflected a mixture of pride, surprise, and deep respect. They realized that hope, which had seemed so far away just moments before, was now very much alive. The child continued, effortlessly executing complex sequences that would challenge even seasoned performers. Every action was precise, measured, and full of emotion. The audience was mesmerized, unable to look away. Each person felt a connection to the performance, as if the child was speaking directly to them without words. The combination of skill and heart created a powerful experience that left everyone inspired. The judges, who had been ready to dismiss the competition as lackluster, were now fully engaged, leaning forward, eyes wide, utterly captivated. As the performance reached its climax, the child executed a series of moves that were both daring and flawless. The audience gasped in collective amazement, some clapping, some cheering loudly, while others were simply stunned into silence. The judges were equally astonished, nodding in recognition and admiration. It was a moment that seemed to suspend time, a shared experience that united everyone in the room. The child's talent, courage, and focus had transformed the atmosphere entirely. Where there had once been tension, skepticism, and fatigue, there was now excitement, joy, and a renewed sense of hope. The child's final movements were executed with precision and grace. Each gesture was intentional, each expression full of meaning. The audience erupted into applause, some rising to their feet, clapping and cheering for the young performer. The judges began to speak, offering praise, acknowledgement, and heartfelt admiration. Their words were filled with genuine astonishment, reflecting the impact the performance had on them. The child smiled quietly, humble and composed, receiving the recognition with a modest nod. It was a response that made the audience respect the young performer even more, highlighting the combination of talent and humility. Backstage, the other contestants and adults were buzzing with energy. The performance had changed the mood entirely. What had started as a tense and uncertain competition was now filled with excitement, admiration, and inspiration. Contestants felt motivated to do better, while coaches and parents shared looks of pride and amazement. Everyone recognized the rare talent and courage that had just graced the stage. The child had not only impressed the judges and audience, but had also inspired everyone around them, showing what was possible with dedication, focus, and heart. The judges continued to discuss the performance among themselves, exchanging comments filled with awe and respect. They marveled at the skill, control, and emotional depth that the child displayed. They acknowledged that they had been ready to lose hope, to feel disappointment, but the young performer had completely changed the trajectory of the competition. The audience, now fully engaged and excited, continued to cheer, sharing their admiration and joy. The child had captivated everyone, turning skepticism into belief, doubt into inspiration. The room was now buzzing with energy. Conversations between audience members, contestants, and coaches were filled with admiration and excitement. People spoke in hushed tones about how unexpected and extraordinary the performance had been. The child had achieved something remarkable, not just in skill, but in the ability to touch hearts and inspire others. It was a shared experience, one that everyone present would remember for a long time. The judges' expressions showed that they were deeply affected, their initial hopelessness replaced with excitement and respect as the applause died down. The child remained calm, taking a small, graceful bow. The audience continued to cheer, many standing to show their appreciation. The judges gave their final remarks, offering heartfelt praise and acknowledgement. Their words reflected the genuine astonishment and admiration that they felt. The child's performance had left an indelible mark, showing that talent, courage, and humility could come together to create something truly extraordinary. It was a reminder to everyone present that hope could return in the most unexpected forms. The child left the stage, still composed and humble, greeted by applause and admiration from all around. Backstage, the energy was electric, filled with excitement and inspiration. Contestants, parents, and coaches reflected on the remarkable display they had just witnessed. The child had not only impressed with skill, but had also inspired a room full of people, changing the mood, energy, and perspective of everyone present. The judges, audience, and contestants alike were reminded that greatness can appear in the most unlikely places, and that hope, even when lost, can return in the most beautiful and unexpected ways. The applause did not stop as the child stepped off the stage, a modest smile on the face, eyes shining with a mix of pride and calm confidence. The audience continued clapping, some standing, some cheering, and some wiping tears from their eyes. Everyone felt a sense of awe, a recognition that they had witnessed something truly extraordinary. The child's performance had not only impressed but had inspired, changing the energy in the room entirely. Where there had once been tension and doubt, there was now excitement, admiration, and joy. People whispered to each other, sharing how remarkable it had been, unable to believe that someone so young could perform with such mastery and confidence. The judges sat quietly for a moment, collecting their thoughts. They had seen countless performances, but none had affected them in quite this way. Each judge spoke, their words filled with genuine respect and admiration. They highlighted the courage, skill, and humility displayed on stage. It was clear that they were not only impressed by the talent, but also moved by the heart and focus that the child had shown. Each comment reinforced the sentiment that hope, which had seemed lost just moments before, had returned in the most unexpected and beautiful form. The judges' faces reflected pride, excitement, and and deep respect, as they praised the young performer for not just meeting expectations but exceeding them in every way. Backstage, the child's fellow contestants and coaches were buzzing with excitement. Some had tears in their eyes, overwhelmed by the brilliance of what they had just witnessed. Others hugged each other, sharing the joy and inspiration that filled the room. The child had transformed the atmosphere, changing fear and tension into hope and amazement. Even the adults, parents, and mentors who had witnessed many performances could not hide their surprise and admiration. It was a reminder that extraordinary talent could appear anywhere, in anyone, regardless of age or size, and that courage and dedication could leave a lasting impression on everyone around. The child was called back to the stage for final recognition. As they stepped forward, the audience erupted into applause once again, louder and more enthusiastic than before. The judges gave their final remarks, praising the combination of skill, confidence, and heart. They acknowledged the child's talent, noting how rare and special it was. The words of the judges were not only recognition of the performance but also a celebration of perseverance, focus, and courage. Every person in the room could feel the importance of this moment, understanding that they had witnessed something that would remain unforgettable. The child smiled humbly as the judges spoke, bowing politely, acknowledging the praise without arrogance. The audience continued to cheer, some waving hands, others clapping enthusiastically. It was clear that the performance had left a lasting impression, inspiring people in ways that went beyond the stage. The energy in the room was electric, filled with excitement, admiration, and a sense of shared joy. The child had become more than a performer. They had become a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in moments of doubt and despair, brilliance could shine through in the most unexpected ways. As the ceremony continued, the child was presented with recognition, and the audience responded with a mix of cheers and applause. The judges stood, some clapping enthusiastically, acknowledging the extraordinary talent and courage that had been displayed. Parents, mentors, and contestants shared smiles and nods of admiration, inspired by the young performer's achievement. The energy in the room was now a celebration, a collective acknowledgement of talent, determination, and heart. The child's success was not just about winning or performing. It was about showing what could be possible when talent and courage come together. The audience lingered, unwilling to let go of the moment. People were talking animatedly, sharing how moved and inspired they had been. Many were reflecting on the unexpected nature of the performance, amazed at the combination of skill and composure that the child had displayed. The judges, still discussing among themselves, expressed a renewed sense of excitement and hope. The child's performance had changed not only the competition but also the mindset of everyone present. Skepticism and doubt had been replaced with belief and admiration. It was a reminder that even in difficult moments, extraordinary talent and courage could transform the environment and lift spirits. Backstage, the child was greeted by congratulations and praise. Contestants, parents, and coaches shared smiles, hugs, and words of encouragement. The young performer remained composed, polite, and humble, grateful for the recognition but not seeking the spotlight. It was this combination of humility and talent that made the child even more remarkable. Everyone around could feel the inspiration radiating from the child, a reminder that greatness often comes in small packages, and that courage and focus can leave a lasting impact on the world around them. The judges gave their final scores, which reflected not only the technical skill displayed, but also the emotional depth, focus, and bravery of the young performer. The audience cheered as the scores were revealed, celebrating not just the numbers, but the journey and effort that had led to this moment. It was clear that the child had exceeded expectations and left a lasting impression on everyone present. The performance had been a perfect blend of skill, confidence, and heart, creating a memory that would remain long after the competition ended. As the event concluded, the child stood quietly, absorbing the admiration and applause. The audience slowly began to leave, still talking about the remarkable performance. The judges remained, discussing the impact of what they had seen, acknowledging that this young performer had reminded them of the joy, excitement, and hope that could be found in unexpected places. The child's achievement was more than a performance. It was a demonstration of what courage, focus, and dedication could accomplish. The story of the child who had walked onto the stage when the judges had lost all hope spread quickly. People were inspired by the unexpected talent and the quiet confidence that had captivated an entire room. The performance became a symbol of hope and encouragement, showing that brilliance can come from anyone, at any age, and in the most surprising forms. The judges' and audience's reactions reflected the transformation that had taken place, from doubt and tension to admiration, joy, and celebration. The child left the venue with a sense of calm pride, aware that the performance had touched many lives. The journey from nervous preparation to an unforgettable performance had been challenging, but the courage and focus displayed on stage had changed everything. People in the audience, backstage, and even those who would later hear the story felt inspired by the example set by the young performer. It was a reminder that hope and belief could return in the most unexpected ways, that talent and dedication could shine through even in moments of doubt, and that one person, no matter how small, could make a huge impact. The judges and audience would remember this performance for years to come. The child's ability to combine skill, focus, and humility had created a moment of pure inspiration. The energy, excitement, and admiration that filled the room served as a lasting testament to what can happen when talent meets courage and heart. Everyone who had been present left with a renewed sense of belief and a reminder that greatness can appear in the most unlikely places. The story of the 8-year-old who walked in and made it look easy became a symbol of hope, determination, and the power of belief, inspiring countless others to pursue their own dreams with courage and confidence.